Now you're talking about the original, right? Back in the
Oh,
day with the guy with the lettuce on his head.
we have a 50 cents budget, so we're going to tie cabbage to your head and hope it looks good. Sup, nerds? It's James here with Nerd Alert, and I'm here with...
Jimmy.
And today we are going to be discussing The Thing. I just recently watched it with a bunch of my friends who have seen it for the first time. And as always, the ending just got me thinking. It is one of those endings where you're like, oh.
Now you're talking about the original, right? Back in the
Oh.
day with the guy with the lettuce on his head.
We have a 50 cents budget, so we're going to tie cabbage to your head and hope it looks good.
Yeah, so I'm assuming you're talking about John Carpenter's 1982 failure that was competing against E.T., the lovable alien.
Oh, yes, absolutely. What are you talking about? The Thing was a dog. It was a good boy.
Yeah, it's unbelievable to me. Now, granted, in 82, I was 5, so it wasn't like I was going to be able to go to the theater to see this. Now, I did go to the theater to see E.T., and that has scarred me, as James knows. Like, watching E.T. die, it was like, oh. So I wasn't allowed to see The Thing at that point. But having seen it and it becoming one of my favorite horror films, I cannot fathom how this bombed at the box office in the 80s when movies weren't being released every week. Like, this would have been in the theaters for a while. So I don't know how this bombed, but oh my goodness, it is probably one of my favorite John Carpenter movies. Like, everything about it is perfect.
Very much so. Like, the best aspect of it is that you could tell John Carpenter let loose. No restrictions, maybe budgetary restrictions, but that'll be I'll bring that up later. But it's like, when he wrote this, you could tell he just did not give a shit. He was like, I'm going to make this creepy and scary and gross, and you all are going to have to deal with it.
What's great is, though, budgetary restrictions, yes, but the tone of the film and the isolation that he created, you can come up with solutions for whatever budgetary problems you have because of what you created in just the set and the setting alone.
Yes, very much so. Fun little fact I learned is that the Norwegian base is just the blown up American base, and that they saved, like, I think $250,000 just by doing that.
And to be honest, I mean, this is 82, so we're talking about practical effects. The only real effect that bothers me still to this day is the matte painting that they have the characters on the high end looking down below at the spacecraft. And you're like, oh my God, that is literally just the old, they have them in the foreground, they have the blue green screen there, and then they did a painting in the foreground. And you're like, that looks like crap.
Yeah, and it's...
When you compare it to the amazing special effects that they did with all the aliens, the dogs, blowing shit up, just everything else involved, you're like, really? They had to use that painting? I mean, it's like the wrong color. Like, the lighting's off. That was the only one that bothered me.
I guarantee you that's when they were like they had like $50 left, and they're like, all right, guys, just paint something. Like, after they had spent a shit ton of money on making the Thing and then all the explosives, they were like, all right, Carl, $50, go paint something.
Exactly. And it's a bummer, but again, that's such a minor part of the film. And what specifically we wanted to talk about and why this came up was we're finding that the next generation, which is James's generation, really hasn't seen a lot of these classic horror films from the 70s and 80s. We talked about this a little bit when we had the last Friday the 13th, and a lot of the kids had never seen any of the Friday the 13th movies. I do blame the studios on that one because it's been like 20 some years since we've had one. But specifically with The Thing, I'm not surprised. That's not been around. It's not been cognizant. There's a prequel that I enjoy, but it's not something that would bring people to the table. And even that's gotten old. So when they saw it, the discussion was at the end of the movie, you have Childs and you have McCready. Are they human, alien, one human, one alien? What's the dealio? And so that got James and I talking. And what did we come up with?
I'm going to use my science brain. Let's hope I don't hurt myself thinking too much. When you watch the ending of the movie, there are 3 things you have to consider. Now, I know there are a bunch of different fan theories, and so I used like 2 big ones to kind of go about evaluating this. One I know for sure is like people looked at the glint in the character's eyes to see who was human. And when you pay attention closely, you'll see that you cannot see the glint in Child's eyes, but you can see a glint in MacReady's eyes. There's also another one about breath, in that because you can see both of their breaths, they're both human. But what I use as damning evidence, having rewatched it, Childs willingly drinks alcohol. Alcohol is poison to the human body. What did we watch during the blood test? The blood was put in immediate danger. And if it was the thing, it basically jumped out of the plate and tried to escape. You could perform that test with acetic acid, bleach, alcohol. I don't know, if you had cyanide, you could do that. And as long as it was something dangerous to the human body, the thing would react in the same way. So the fact that,
not to the human body.
That's true.
To the alien.
Exactly. To any living organism, I guess I should say, is that it's like, if the thing is mimicking human cellular metrics, it is not going to want to intercept alcohol, because alcohol is poison. So the fact that Childs willingly drank alcohol is a sign that he is human.
Which got me thinking, MacReady is constantly drinking alcohol throughout the movie. So that to me leads more to what you're saying, is like, yeah, he has been drinking pretty much the whole damn movie. But then there's another point you brought up, which it never occurred to me, and I've seen this movie a lot. Anytime somebody is infected, they become more amicable to the group. You see this several times with, I can't remember the doctor's name.
Oh, but Blair?
No, not Blair.
Oh, Copper.
Yeah. And he is Copper, I don't think anybody would oppose to you being the leader. And he's like, I don't have it in me, guys. And then almost the next scene, we find out he's an alien. He's like, oh, well, because he wants to stay in the background. He doesn't want to take charge. There's another point where MacReady says, as he's being overcome, he's like, if all of you were aliens, you would just jump me right now. So I got to believe some of you are not. And that, to me, is the line at the end of the movie. If Childs was a thing, there's no point to wait. Clearly, the thing wouldn't want to get frozen in the ice again. And as the fires are going out, that's what's going to happen. So he would act, in my opinion, immediately to either Childs taking over MacReady or MacReady taking over Childs, whichever one was the alien taking over the other one, to try and get the hell out of there. So to me, I believe they are both humans at the end. And we've seen the alien will do whatever it can to fight for survival. Humanity is a little more rational. And I think they both realize, we're not getting out of here. We're going to die.
Very much so. And like, one of the biggest pieces is like damning pieces of evidence for that postulation, that it's like, when you're infected, you become amicable, is Blair. The first time we really see him do something is when he's like destroying all the computers, because he's like, I don't want to be in here with you. Any one of you could be that thing. And he's destroying.
Well, he's also the one who was doing the research on the computer, and he saw the cells taking over, and then he destroyed the helicopter, and then he confronted everybody and was destroying everything.
Absolutely. So then they lock him away, and he's like, good, I don't want to be near any of you. But then they go back a little bit later. There's a noose, and he's like, I'm fine, really. I think I can come back. And it's like, oh, you've been infected, because we know later the Blair thing, the giant one underneath, that was Blair. Blair was infected. So in between the time they locked him up and they went back, he was infected. And it's most likely that noose was his way of trying to kill himself before it could take him over.
The subtlety of that noose in that shot, they never ever be like zoom in on it or anything. It's just there in the background. And when you finally realize it's there, you're like, oh my God, there's a noose in the background of this shot. That's crazy. The other one I want to say is Tyler Stout did an amazing The Thing poster early on in his career. And every character who is infected or was infected has red in their eyes. There's two that don't. And it's Childs and MacReady. Now, I'm not saying that Tyler Stout is the end-all be-all of the authority, because I think even John Carpenter came out and said it's open to interpretation. But to me, it was like, yeah, it's pretty much foregone conclusion that at the end of the movie, MacReady and Childs are humans, and not everybody was infected, because there were a couple deaths that happened before they got infected. But at the end of the movie, those are the two survivors, and in my opinion, they're both human. What's your final assessment?
I can say with complete certainty that it was Childs, McCready, Copper, and the dude who took care of the dogs. They were human because they do the test for Copper and the dude who liked the dogs, and they were both human, which is one of the points where I think Childs is tied up and McCready does the test.
Yeah.
And he's like, "So you're a murderer?" And he's like,
So it's Clark. He's the one that Richard Mazer was the one with the
Yes.
dogs.
Also, that one dog that got shot in like right here, that
Yeah.
dog was definitely not corrupted.
And I misspoke earlier. I was saying Copper. Copper was the one that went to zap
Yes.
Norris.
Yes.
Norris was the one that what's his name? Gary was like, I don't think anybody would oppose you. And Norris was like, I don't have it in me, guys.
Yes, but I'm also confused or more intrigued because to me it almost seems like the thing has to kill the host before it can fully like operate it. So it could also be that he just felt really sick because we see him
That's true.
die and then the thing when he goes to zap, but that could also be a ploy by the alien to try and catch them off guard. So we really don't know.
Well, and the zap is another example of it was hurting the alien. So when the jaws open in the chest and bites his arms off, it's like, yeah, it's fighting back because it was getting zapped. And it's not like that is necessarily going to kill it, but it was definitely poisoning it or hurting it, so it fought back. Another one was Knowles. I don't believe Knowles was infected. I think, didn't he make it to the end and then got blown up with when they're trying to blow up the spaceship?
Was
Or
he
was the one on the roller skates.
he got killed?
He got infected. No. But what I'm saying is he didn't get infected, did he?
No, I think he got taken out by Blair.
Okay. Yeah, because I thought he made it to the end, but then he got killed right at the end with they're trying to blow up the spacecraft.
I think so. I can't remember exactly, but I know he doesn't make it out. But I think he was either taken out by Blair, which is why that thing got so massive, or he blew up.
Our final assessment is you have two humans at the end of the movie. I know there was a video game that came out that delved further into that. We're just going on the movie and what John Carpenter intended, and that he specifically asked us to break this down. So we did. Let us know what you guys think in the comments below. McCready and Childs, are they human? Are they things?